Every night, the second the last fork went down, your father pushed back his chair, said thank you for dinner, and walked down the hall to the room at the end. Then the latch clicked, and a thin line of lamplight glowed under the door, and the house held its breath until morning. The neighbors never saw that part. They only ever saw the wave. Across the street, old Mr. Pell would lift his coffee and call out the same thing every Saturday: perfect family. Your mother kept a wreath on the front door and changed it for every season, like the seasons were watching. There was a photo on the mantel, all of you on the porch steps in matching white shirts, squinting into the same sun. Casseroles came to the door warm. The dishes went back washed. You looked exactly like the family on the dish soap bottle. But the door that mattered wasn't the red one out front. It was the plain one inside, down the hall. After dinner, the ritual was always the same. The chair legs scraped, 2 words, and the hallway swallowed him. The moment that latch clicked, the whole house dropped a few degrees, and everyone learned to talk softer. Your mother would turn on the tap to fill the silence and say, "Let's give your father his quiet." You learned to dry a glass without letting it clink. You were good at it before you were 10. You never knew what he did behind that door. You only knew the rules out here. Rule 1. Never be the reason the door closed early. You were 9 the night you laughed too loud and knocked your water glass over. The glass didn't even break, but his chair scraped back before dessert, and the door closed early. That time it stayed shut a day and a half. Your mother taught you how to bring him back: set the table unasked, make no noise, be very, very good. By Sunday the door opened, and he ruffled your hair like nothing had happened, and you were so grateful you cried in the bathroom. That gratitude was the whole machine. You were thankful just to be let back in. You assumed every family had a door like that. You thought it was just how houses worked. In art class, you drew your house with a bright sun and a dog you didn't have. The teacher pinned it on the wall and said, "What a happy home." After a while, you believed the drawing more than the hallway. The performance got good. You got good at it. Birthdays happened on the lawn, your father flipping burgers, laughing with Mr. Pell over the fence. Other kids said they wished they had your dad. You let them believe they were right. The whole time you were counting the minutes until the guests left and the door could finally close. Because the closed door was the truth and the burgers were the show. By 11, you could read his whole mood from the sound of his shoes coming down the hall. Fast shoes meant a good night. Slow shoes meant set your fork down quietly and wait. You could read a man straight through a wall, and yet you never once learned to read his face. Your mother smiled at that door the way people smile at the weather. Something to be endured, not questioned. She'd been doing it so long she'd forgotten it was a door and not a husband. Once you asked her what he did in there, she said, "He works hard. He needs his quiet." You were old enough to know that quiet was a country he lived in and only visited you from. Then you were 12, and you won first place at the science fair. A blue ribbon, your name on it. You carried it home and stood outside his door. Through the wood you could hear a baseball game on the radio, turned low. You knocked, just twice. Small. The radio went quiet. A pause. Then 2 words came through the door: "Not now." Then the radio came back up, louder than before. You stood there until the line of lamplight under the door went blurry. You put the ribbon in your sock drawer and never showed it to anyone. And somewhere in there, without words, you decided that needing him was the thing that closed the door. So you stopped needing him. A kid can decide that, if it hurts enough. You got quieter, better grades, fewer wants. The perfect kid for the perfect family. Teachers said it, neighbors said it, and you wore it like that white shirt in the photo. Nobody ever asks the perfect kid if they're okay. You left for college the very first August you were allowed to. On the porch your father shook your hand. A handshake in full view of Mr. Pell. You felt calluses you'd never known were there, and realized you didn't know his hands at all. The house kept performing without you. Your mother's letters were all weather and casseroles. Years passed. You built a life loud enough to drown out a hallway. The call came on a Tuesday. Your father, quietly, the way he did everything. His heart gave out at the desk, behind the door, with the radio still on. He died in the one room you were never allowed inside. You drove home. The red door was repainted, and for the first time the wreath was wrong for the season. Your mother was smaller now, and the house was the same temperature it always was after dinner. Neighbors came with casseroles. Mr. Pell held your shoulder and said, "Your father was a good man." Perfect family. You said thank you. You'd been saying thank you your whole life. When they were gone, you walked down the hall. You were 40, and your hand shook like it was 9 again. You opened the door you'd spent your whole childhood standing outside of. And it was just a room. A desk, a chair facing the window, an old radio, a water glass that had dried a ring into the wood. No bottle, no letters, no other woman, no secret, just a chair and a window. The window looked straight out at Mr. Pell's house, at the same street where your father used to wave. So that was it. Every night he sat here and watched the life he performed from the outside, like one of the neighbors. He wasn't hiding something from you. He was hiding from the table. You opened the desk drawer looking for a reason. Paper clips, a dead pen, a grocery list in his handwriting. And underneath the list, flat and faded, a blue ribbon. Yours, from when you were 12. He had gone into your room and taken it. He had kept it here, in the quiet, where you were never allowed. He had loved you. He'd had it the whole time. And he still said not now. That was the answer, and it was worse than no answer at all. The door was never about not loving you. You sat in his chair with the ribbon in your fist and looked out at the street through his window. You waited to feel something land. There was only the room, the radio, and a man-shaped absence in the chair. You will never know what he carried in there. He took the door with him. You closed it softly behind you, the old habit, the careful quiet for a father who wasn't there. The latch clicked, the exact sound you grew up on. It still made you flinch. Then you drove home to your own house, your own family. Your daughter is 7, the age you were when you first noticed the door. You have a good wife, a reddish door, neighbors who wave. They tell you you've got a beautiful family. You say thank you. And tonight, after dinner, you felt it. A pull toward the end of a different hallway. You'd promised yourself you were nothing like him. You'd built your whole self on that promise. But your chair scraped back the same way, and thank you for dinner came out in his voice. You have an office now, a door, a window. You don't even drink. You just need the quiet. You finally understand the word your mother used, and understanding it terrifies you. You stopped in the hall with your hand on the knob. Behind you, the dishes had gone silent. You knew that exact silence. Your daughter was drying a glass, slow and careful, without a single clink. 7 years old, and already so good at it. Already learning the rules of out here. You stood there, hand on the door, the same brass cold under your fingers. You don't know yet whether you'll turn it. That's the truth of it. You don't know. You only know the neighbors think you're the perfect family. And not one of them has ever seen the door.